Hello, hello, hello. I hope you can hear me and see me. Welcome to the first ever of the series called Strategy Call. We are going to do this at least for the next few weeks. That's the plan. And it's going to be a lot of fun. The idea is to, not just do the obvious podcast kind of setups, but also do something that is a bit more problem solving oriented. We want to help you figure out your day to day business problems, and this is going to our founders, business owners, HRs, people managers, and DEI professionals that are working in different companies. So if you are any of those, this live stream is for you, because we're going to talk about very very specific niche topic, and we will have a lot of fun doing it. So yeah, looks like the live stream is up, and yeah, this recording will also be up. Probably I'm going to trim the first part, so we'll see. Let's see if the sound and everything is working. All right, yeah, all right. Looks like it is working. So this is the first strategy call about how can senior executives and leaders beat AI anxiety and ride the Gen Z wave. Now, you're gonna think like, hey Sonali, you do people and culture initiatives, you do workshops and you do inclusion talks and you talk a lot about pride. What kind of a topic is this? I mean, what are you gonna possibly tell me that you know and that is associated with this particular topic, right? This is going to be a lot of fun for you. So we'll see where this goes, right? I can promise you that everything connects to each other. Yeah. I'm not going to talk anything outside of my domain. So we're going to start with what is the strategy call, why is this, and for whom is this, right? Like I mentioned, that this strategy call is moving away from the typical, live stream, podcasty kind of content to something more practical, something more doable, and something more applicable. Right? Why are we doing this? Because I don't want to do another webinar that hands you 10 tips and then disappears. Ten things to do this, three ways to do that, right? What I do is I want to actually sit down and tell you, and this is what I would actually do if you hired me for an hour. Like if you took a consulting call with me, or if you like we were chatting at your office and you had hired me for one of your workshops, this is what exactly I would do for you. If it came to problem solving for a specific kind of an audience in your organization, yeah. So I'm calling it a strategy call on purpose because it's not going to be any fluffy advice. They're not going to be inspirational quotes. I'm just going to tell you what is happening right now and what you can do about it. Yeah, so it's like a huddle. And this is specifically for founders, people managers, someone in HR, HRBPs, or if you're doing an HR DEI work, maybe formally or informally. So this is going to be built for you, right? If you are not the right person in that organization, you might want to tag them or share this with them. Yeah, okay. So, what is actually going on right now? We're going to talk about the current landscape when it comes to senior executives who are kind of panicking around the AI wave. We're mostly talking about non techies here, obviously, and who are also like, hey, like Gen Z is taking over. Yeah. So, every company is racing to sound AI first, and every headline you read is AI is coming for this, AI coming for that, AI is going to take all of our jobs, yada 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 yada. And it's like saying that so many things are changing, and oftentimes you hear multiple versions of this in the same week, maybe in the same day. Underneath both stories, there is a group that nobody's writing headlines about. This is the group who are senior, experienced people, and they're just expected to absorb all the changes that are happening at once, sometimes quietly and sometimes with no support. Because, hey, well, you're a senior person. Why do you need support from us? Yeah. And that is a collision that's happening. Yeah. Because AI is moving fast, a new generation is moving in. And if you're a founder, people manager, HR, DI person, you're in the mix of things, yeah, and we're not checking up on those people, the senior executives, and that's why this session is happening today, because we're going to talk about them. Yeah. So your people are not quitting, they're cracking. What do I mean by that? We've heard about quiet quitting a lot, right? So we're going to move forward from quiet quitting to quiet cracking, which means that your people look fine, They're showing up, but they're quietly getting anxious around what's going on. They're like, oh God, like, oh my God, what is really happening? Yeah. And more than half of people say that this is them right now, somewhere. And right now, it's hitting your most experienced people the hardest. They're absorbing the most change with the least acknowledgement. They're looking, they're sitting, they're absorbing, and they are getting anxious, right? Because they're not essentially part of that chain. They're feeling left out. So if you are a founder, HR, people manager, or DI lead, you are stuck in the middle, and I know it, right? Because your leadership and investors want AI adoption fast and wants it cheap. Your senior team is quietly panicking, but they're not going to say that out loud. Your younger team is frustrated that hey, the senior person is like slowing us down. They're not catching up fast. And you are the person that's stuck translating between the two sides who have basically stopped listening to each other. Yeah. If you're this person, give me like a like a comment or something in the chat. Yeah, whether you're watching right now or you're watching later, you can interact however you want to do. Right. So this is obviously a conversation about you, founder, HR, people manager, DLI. It's about them, but it is for you. What are you gonna do? How can I make your life better? Because this is happening right now as we speak. Yeah. So how can senior executives and leaders beat AI anxiety and ride the Gen Z wave? I mean, you see it all the time. It's everywhere around you. You can see people who are in a certain age bracket, experience bracket, they're just like feeling kind of left out. They're like, oh, what is really happening? If you ask them about AI, they probably know a bit of chat GPT, they probably know a bit of prompting, but that's about it, right? But if you look at the AI native Gen Zs, right, they're like going all in, and everything that we talk about and hear about today is AI. Every product, every company has become a tech company, and everything is very, very AI. Sometimes it's very annoying, but yeah, it's happening. Yeah. So let's get to know these people. Who are they? What do they feel? And what do they do? So, who are they? These are typically people who are in their between 42 to 60, maybe more. They have more than 15 plus years of experience. They are somewhere in the team lead, functional lead, senior specialist, those kind of roles. They're usually the highest paid, most tenured person in the room, and their expertise was built through repetition and judgment. They did not build that expertise through any tools. Again, I'm talking about non-AI tech, non-AI leaders. Yeah. And that was the whole point. The point that they got their hands dirty, they got into the mud, and that's how they learned and became who they are. They didn't learn it using prompts. Yeah. So, what do they feel about the current thing? They are quietly panicking. So there's this quiet panic dressed up as calm. They look calm, but they're quietly panicking. There's a specific kind of an embarrassment that they're facing about asking basic questions in a room full of people who report to them. They're also watching 24, 22 year olds that are two levels below casually reference a tool they've never opened, and they're feeling that their authority is slipping from their hands. They're feeling like they're losing control. And what do? They start gatekeeping instead of sharing. So all the knowledge that they have gathered over years and years of expertise are inside their brains. They don't want to share. They're gatekeeping it. They're quietly becoming the person who blocks AI pilot instead of joining it. They're asking questions like, why do we even need it? Is this necessary? I mean, come on, kids these days, those kind of stuff. The Gen Zs are reading them as resistant, and they're reading Gen Zs as shallow. And finally, they're mentally clocking out long before they resign. They're not resigning at the moment because they've obviously stayed in this industry, company, profession for too long to quit. It's like a big thing to quit. They don't know what else they're going to do. A big part of their identity is stuck with that job. But mentally, they're not there. They're just coming into work, logging into work, but they're not really there. They're not contributing as much as they can, as much as they're capable of. Yeah. So, what's really happening? What has happened is currently they are feeling like outsiders. They have gotten a status of an outsider, right? And who is an outsider? An outsider is anyone who is treated differently or who's treated unfairly because they are different than the rest. They're a minority in a group. Like a misfit almost. Yeah. So What about loyalty? Right? So, the very company, industry, or profession that they have spent years and years of their life, they've shown their loyalty to this business, does no longer feel familiar to them. It doesn't feel like their home ground anymore. And they feel replaced or know that they are replaceable. They're insecure about their future in the company. They're thinking, am I needed? Am I valued? Am I next in line going towards the exit door? They don't know that. They don't know it. Hence, this is why they're feeling like an outsider. Now, you might think, come on, what's there to feel like an outsider? It's just all in your head. Let me tell you that anyone and everyone can be an outsider. It really depends on where you are and with whom you are, right? If you're a 40 plus senior executive in an AI first Gen Z team, you can be an outsider. If you're a woman who's returning to the work after a break, the workplace can feel unfamiliar to you. If you're someone who's closeted or out, in the workplace, you can be an outsider. If you're introverted and shy as a professional, I'm guessing you've forever been an outsider. If you're someone who's from a tier 2 or a tier 3 city, or you're coming from a different city or a country, parts of this same country or a different country altogether, you're an outsider. If you're a young founder who's leading a team of senior executive and professionals, you can be an outsider in that particular example. If you're the only remote employee in an all in office team, then you can be an outsider because they'll have their internal jokes and stuff that you don't know because you're not really physically there at work, right? If you're the only person on the team that that doesn't drink, right? Maybe your folks really get together of every Friday to grab a couple of pints, but you don't know, but you because you don't drink, so you don't really go there. You're like, I don't know, right? Maybe you're a person who switched industries mid-career. You can be an outsider because you don't, you're a couple of things you don't know. You can also be a manager who used to be one of the team, one of the mates, and now you're the senior leadership. So they don't really give you all the the gossip and the details and everything, right? So anyone and everyone can be an outsider. It really doesn't matter where you are, honestly. I mean, it matters where you are, but don't think that, hey, it's not me or it can never be me, right? So this isn't really an AI problem. It's not about adopting AI. It's a human problem. Yeah. And it never was an AI problem either. So people don't resist learning. They resist feeling replaced. Right? Those are two very different problems, and most companies are solving the wrong one. They're saying that, oh, we don't have enough AI training. Let's get a trainer from outside. Let's get a bunch of new tools and let's just push it on to people and they're going to figure it out. But no, there is a resistance towards feeling replaced for the value they bring into work, not a resistance towards learning. Now, you might say, hey, Sonali, but if you learn, you won't be replaced. That's not how it works in their head, right? Because they might feel like, oh, they're taking all the information from me, they're building a tool that can replace me, so I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, frankly, it's happening everywhere, right? People are getting replaced left, right, and center for building the same tool that they build replace them. So you can't really see that is a thing not to be worried about, right? So for years and years, saying things like, I've been doing this longer than you, was the whole argument. A lot of senior people will always say like, hey, I did this before you were born. I heard that a lot when I was young. But currently, experience has quietly equaled authority. It used to equal authority. If I'm experienced enough, I have a lot of authority. But that has changed, right? So it isn't a skill problem right now. It's an identity problem. They're like, who am I if I'm not the most known, smart, experienced senior person? Who am I, right? And there is a lot of Gen Z lazy talk going around as well. There's a lot of talk in corporate that's talking about, oh, these guys are so lazy, these guys are this and these guys are that, and they're so sensitive and blah blah blah, right? And a chunk of that also gets blamed on AI. They're saying that, oh, technology is making you lazy because you're born in this. Back in our days, we used to do blah, 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 right? So a senior employee who is complaining about that is now like, hey, how can I? So I'm gonna show how hard work is done. I'm not gonna do smart work because that's not how I learned things. It's a bit of an ego problem there as well, right? And finally, underneath all of this is a simple human logic. Why would I get close to the very thing that is trying to replace me whether that's the software or the 24-year-old sitting next to me. Why should I get close to them? Right? This is a very, very logical argument there. So you get it? This is not an AI adoption or a learning problem. It's not. It's an identity problem. Yeah, you get my point? So here is my solution. Identity maxing. This is one of the new things I've come up with. It's going to be fun. Let's help you understand. So identity maxing is when people start owning their unfair advantage. Right? Identity maxing is a way through which people own their unfair advantages. And what do I mean by unfair advantages? Anybody's unfair advantage is the unique edge, is what makes them an outsider. Essentially, the whole reason why people have kind of pushed another person into a minority group is because they don't fit in with the majority. They're different, they're misfits, they're outcasts, right? I mean, all the different examples I've showed you, right? And there are many ways of, I'm sure all of you, whoever is watching, has gone through a phase where you have been an outsider, right? You can come up with all kinds of examples for that, right? But the very thing that makes you an outsider in the eyes of the other people is your unique edge. That is your unfair advantage. For the longest time, people used to tell me, Sonali, you have to dress up a certain way, you have to look a certain way, you can't do leadership sessions like that, you can't do this and you can't do that. And then I figured that, hey, all the things that I'm doing and I'm bringing and the way I am, that is my uniqueness. That is non copyable. It's almost like an IP that I have, right? Every one of us have it. So we got to double down on that because that's an advantage I have and it's kind of unfair. You're like, you already got it. So why not use it? Everybody has it. Everybody has it. Yeah. So what is their unfair advantage? The senior execs that we're talking about, they have years of real world experience and wisdom from the non AI world. That is really, really, really important, right? The non AI world. And that's super valuable because that's what we're trying to understand. Because so many things in our current businesses and the way we deal with people, it's like a loop, right? It comes around. So if we know what to do, and if we know how to react and prepare, I mean, AI doesn't have that kind of data at the moment. It's like real world learnings via experiences, right? These people have a lot of social IQ. They know how to read a room, they know how to get to a client, they understand a bad deal before it's happening. They have developed that instinct that AI doesn't have because AI it's not in the room with the actual client. And the Gen Zs haven't had the time to build it yet because it's still very young in this industry. They also have something called as an institutional memory. They've seen certain things, certain mistakes happen before, and they can stop it from happening twice because they can see the pattern. They can do some pattern recognition, right? AI can write the email, but it's never once told anyone not to send it. How many times have you made bad decisions based on a hunch? You have, right? Would it not be nice for someone who's done this before to come and tell you that, hey, I don't think you should be saying that. Take a pause, right? So you can use AI, but someone has to kind of maneuver those decision making capabilities, right? Relationships, they have relationships built over years, not just weeks. They know the client who can pick up their call, they know the vendor who can give them the real story instead of just the pitch, right? So AI can predict the outcome, but it never had the experience of telling a client some bad news in a certain way and still keep them as a client. That's the intel, that's the intelligence we're trying to kind of get into, right? And they also understand that when you're making a sales pitch, what are the promises that will survive when it comes to delivery, when it comes to actually getting the client what they want, versus what's going to blow up in 6 months. So they don't overpromise. They don't like overestimate what we can and we can't do because again they've seen this happen before. But they've been in this industry for years and years, right? So we that is their unfair advantage. Like if you're a senior executive, tell me and I don't know if you've ever seen this that is your unfair advantage, and you have to own it. Yeah. So, what are we trying to do here? We have to build a bridge. Don't choose a side. So, if you're a founder, I want you to publicly explain why they need to take co ownership of decisions with someone younger. You got to help the senior executives understand that their judgment and the Gen Z's or the junior resource speed both of them matter equally. So if there are projects, then both these parties can co-own. Nobody has to talk over anybody else, right? Both sides of the coin are important here. If you're an HR person, try and figure out if there is a way to reward smart decisions and problem solving, not just how fast someone types a prompt or finishes a task, right? So a lot of these AI skills that we have, or these workshops that we do, are just giving you the tools, right? But the applicability has to be based on human insight. So we got to grade workers on how they use human intelligence alongside tools, and how whatever however these tools help us. You can't just blindly use a tool. You got to do your own reading in the real world as well, in order to use the tool in the right way. And if you're a people manager, I want you to stop asking them to just catch up, right? You can design reverse mentoring sessions where the senior executives teach Gen Z's instinct, how to develop that, how to like read the room and all of that, while the AI natives can help them, the senior people, automate mundane and everyday tasks, right? Make them collaborate in that way, make them do some knowledge sharing sessions, right? So do not pit them against each other. Build a bridge and do not choose sides. This is what's been happening, right? We're all saying, oh, seniors that, millennials this, blah, 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 blah. No, no, we're in the same company. We want to solve the same problems, we have the same purpose, so let's not fight. Yeah. So a little bit of that. So what next? Have one honest conversation with someone you suspect is quietly panicking. Take a look at your team, the team you lead, the team you manage, and see if you feel that somebody has been quietly panicking over all this AI Gen Z stuff, and just have a one-on-one conversation with them and say that, hey, I felt like this was the case, and I just want to let you know that your job here is secure and we value you here. Sometimes words of affirmation, these kind words matter. You might think, oh, this is a senior person, it's gonna look cringe and blah blah blah. They already know it. No, they don't know it. Tell people how you feel. Tell people how much you value them. Tell people what they bring to the table, and you can figure out if they want a public, kind of acknowledgement, or they want something private. But do it do it deservingly, of course. Don't do it randomly, but yeah, do it, right? If you want this kind of a model map for your actual team, I can help. We can do something for them. And if you want to bring me into your office, to your organization, in person, hybrid, virtually, I can do all of that. We can do live identity maxing sessions for your seniors and Gen Z talent together. What are each of their unfair advantages? What makes them unique? How do they tap into that? How can they come together, and how can they collaboratively work together without stepping on each other's shoes, right? How can that happen for you, right? So as a founder, HR, people manager, you're not babysitting them. You're not constantly like getting into the fights and like putting your head out there. They just coexist, and they're teammates. They have each other's back, right? And if you are a senior executive, then you can hire me as your coach to help you identify and own your unfair advantages at work, right? If you don't think as an organizational level we can do that, then we can do that one is to one as well, right? So I have my email IDs over there, given Sonali at the rate humanize.in. You can also send it to partner with Sonali. It's Sonali, not Sonal. Partner with Sonali at gmail.com. You know what? I'm going to change that so there is no confusion. Yeah, partner with Sonali at gmail.com. And yeah, finally, I have a really good movie recommendation for you, which is what is called The Intern. Yeah, I don't know if you've seen this before, but this is a fantastic movie, one of my favorite movies, and you have to see it, right? It has Robert De Niro and Anne Hathaway again. Anne Hathaway, I absolutely love her, and she is a very young founder of a fashion brand, and Robert De Niro is a retired person who joins as an intern for her. And I love this quote as well. You can teach a young boss old tricks. That's the whole point of this entire conversation. Yeah. Another thing I also will leave you with is I write a lot on my newsletter about various things related to work, identity, um, people culture, so you can follow that if you're a reader. I also have an identity maxing session on YouTube, which I did for a university here in Bangalore, so you can scan the QR code and yeah, and watch that session. It's a session that helps you understand what identity maxing is and how you can figure it out for yourself. But yeah, thanks a lot for your time. I really enjoyed this strategy session with you. I will be back with other topics. If you have any topic recommendations, feel free to let me know. You can comment, you can DM, you can email. Everything is open. And yeah, I hope this was helpful. I will see you in the next one. Cheers.